Hello, my name is Sarah and welcome to Something Shakespeare. Today in the UK, in Nottinghamshire where I live, it is an absolutely wet, miserable, rainy day. Very normal, to be honest, for the UK. But days like today is a perfect day to curl up with a book. And I'd like to recommend a book for you to read. Not too long ago, Shakespeare's book by Chris Laoutaris, I hope that's pronounced right, Laoutaris, was released, and I ordered my copy and I read it. So here is my review of Shakespeare's book, The Intertwined Lives Behind the First Folio. If you don't know what the First Folio is, it was a book which all of Shakespeare's plays, bar a couple, were published together in one go. It was the first time for Shakespeare that all his books, all his plays had been worked together and published for sale in one volume. Quartos had been released and probably a few pirate copies of plays that floated around, but this was something that had happened after Shakespeare's death, and it was quite an unusual thing that it had happened without Shakespeare being there. Another playwright, Ben Jonson, had actually done this already, so it wasn't brand new, but it was curious. What Chris explores in the book is actually, how did this come about? When I did a very brief review on Twitter, I said that it wasn't what I was expecting, and this is really truthful. I had already read quite a few books this year of the people around Shakespeare. I'd read Stanley Wells' Shakespeare and Co. I'd read Edmondson and Wells's Shakespeare Circle. Both really good books. So when I saw that this book was coming out, when I saw Shakespeare's book was coming out, I was like, oh great, another book about people around Shakespeare. It wasn't quite, not too much detail goes into who's who and who's who. A little, but not as much. What I hadn't realised so much, and this is why the book was such a surprise, is I hadn't really thought too much about the process of creating a book in Elizabethan Jacobean England, because first world problems, we take everything for granted. So I was really, it actually made me sit down and actually think, wow, every single copy of the First Folio is very unique. No two copies are alike, and that in itself is very special. Something else that the book made me realise is that, so I've always been a bit of a history buff, just to, what you learn at school and what you enjoy. I really do quite enjoy the Tudors. I hadn't really done too much thinking about the Stuarts. I guess, obviously, the gunpowder plot. I actually hadn't really thought too much about the Stuarts. I know a few things, I'd heard a few things, I've got a friend who's often talked to me about them, a bit about James Stuart's promiscuous relationships with men. I hadn't really gone too much detail. There were a couple of moments in the book where I was really like, wow, that's amazing. Or really, when I say amazing, wow, that's really, really fascinating. Something that really struck me in the book was actually a portrait, and it made me realise of how little I knew about the people around the Stuarts. And there's one man called George Villiers, and he's actually the Duke of Buckingham. One thing that I have been taught is to appreciate what's in a portrait. And I must admit, when I looked at this picture, I was like, wow, that man, wow, he would turn heads when he's going to be trouble with a capital T, guaranteed. Why is that relevant? The way that the book is written is it gives a nice little mixture of what's going on in the creating of the book, and it also gives another side of what's going on in the bigger picture of the political world of the Stuart court, because the two are related, the two are important. So it just flits nicely between the two so that you don't get bored while reading it. I love how Chris has written the book with a bit of a question of where's the story gonna go. So the narration of this book is really enjoyable. Something that's probably important to tell about me is that I am dyslexic. I love reading, but sometimes if the book isn't written in a dyslexic friendly way, it can mean it's a very difficult battle to read some books. If I just show a page at random, hopefully I won't get in trouble for this, but the page is on a lovely, it's an off-white colour, and the text is, if I just lean in a little bit there, the text has got a nice space between it, so that is really, really friendly for somebody like me who, you know, when you're dyslexic, the words jump and it's a bit of a nightmare. So that's really nice it was a nice steady read. There was a moment in reading this book where I actually kind of had to stop and I had to put down the book and I had to message a friend because I came across something that for me was super exciting. And I'm not going to reveal what it is too much because what's exciting for me is probably not exciting for somebody else. But the book is full of juicy tidbits of something of a world that I'm very much interested in. I've given this book a 5-star review on Twitter. I think it's enlightening. Now, whenever I hear the first folio being mentioned, I now have more reverence for it in a way that I hadn't had before, which I think probably is what Chris was hoping to achieve. If you want to broaden your knowledge, think about it. What do you know about the printing press? Have you actually thought about it? This book it's a lovely read. It's beautifully laid out. My copy from Amazon came slightly tatty, so I've had to sellotape it. But it means my book tells a bit more of a story. You can get Shakespeare's book, The Intertwined Lives Behind the First Folio, from any decent bookstore. Read it, it is worth the time. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you want to subscribe to my channel, that would be awesome. My channel is such a fledgling little channel, but I would love to see it grow, so please consider supporting me by subscribing. Thank you for watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Goodbye.